alarm clock. My body is programmed to wake me up every morning at 6:30 a.m. So that morning, the same as every other morning, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. I rolled over, pulled my laptop off the hotel nightstand onto the bed, sent off a quick email to my wife. Morning, love. Looking forward to meeting with Jordan Singer. I guess he's the point man on our project with Cantor Fitzgerald. I'll let you know how it goes. Love to you and the kids. I showered, got dressed, made a final check of my notes for the meeting, and then made a final check of my email, including the reply from my wife. Hope it goes well. Call me when you're done. Love you, Susan. I slipped the laptop into my shoulder bag, took the elevator down to the lobby, and started walking toward the World Trade Center. I checked my watch as I left the hotel. 7:30 on the nose. My hotel was only 10 blocks from the World Trade Center. I figured that if I got to the North Tower by 8:30, I'd have plenty of time to join the elevator queue, make it up to the Cantor Fitzgerald offices on the 101st floor, and be plenty early for my meeting with Jordan Singer at 9 o'clock. I had an hour to walk 10 blocks. I was a bit overweight, and I knew the walk would do me some good. Because of my weight and some minor heart issues, I wasn't supposed to have any pastries, but I couldn't resist them when I was away from home. And so I planned that I would stop at some small shop along the way and grab a quick pastry and coffee. It was a beautiful morning. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. I was really happy, even excited about the prospects of making this deal with Cantor Fitzgerald. I really needed this deal to go through to make up for some things that had gone wrong back home in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was pretty sure it was in the bag. That and the great weather had me walking on air. Well, almost. New Yorkers walk fast. I don't know why they don't just leave a little bit earlier and slow down. I felt rushed and jostled by the other pedestrians, and I resented it. Sure, I had a bounce in my step, but I didn't like being rushed. I wanted to take my time, enjoy the stroll, take in the sights, and find a place to have coffee. Just as I spotted what looked like a promising little coffee bar about a block away from the World Trade Center, there was this deafening roar overhead. I remember thinking in that moment, wow, that plane is flying. Wow, that plane is flying awfully low. Before I could finish that thought, the plane hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. It was followed by a gigantic explosion of fire, followed by a cascade of debris, broken glass, fiery chunks of concrete, paper bits, bits of luggage, strips of aluminum, melted plastic, burning body parts. The people around me were frozen in their tracks. Some of them screamed, some of them cried, but most of them just stood frozen in stunned silence. Somebody standing next to me said, "Holy Jesus," and crossed himself. My first thought after that was, what kind of idiot pilot couldn't avoid flying his plane into one of the World Trade Center towers? It didn't take me long to decide it wasn't an accident, but I assumed the pilot was mentally ill. I had no idea what his true motivation was for flying his plane into that building. I don't know why, but for some reason, I felt drawn to that site. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was ghoulish curiosity, or I don't know. I don't know. Whatever the reason was, I was irresistibly drawn to the site. As I neared the building, people had already begun streaming out of the building. Some of them were crying, but most of them were frightened or in shock. They all seemed to know the building had been hit or something, but they weren't quite sure what it was. Many of them assumed that a bomb had gone off inside the building, Sort of like when that truck bomb went off in the underground parking garage there some years earlier. At the same time that people were coming out of the building, other people were gathering in the side streets, the open areas, the plazas, all looking up at the North Tower where the plane hit. It was terrifying. And in a way, awe-inspiring. There's so much fire, so much damage, so much death and destruction. One person standing next to me said, I counted. It hit about the 100th floor. That was one floor below Jordan Singer's office on the 101st floor with Cantor Fitzgerald. I looked at my watch. 7:53, I announced to no one in particular. I think the plane must have hit about 5 minutes ago. Look again, buddy, said somebody else standing on the other side of me. Maybe your watch isn't working. He was right. In a way, my watch was working, and it did say 7:53. But I'd forgotten to reset my watch when I left Omaha, Nebraska. It was 8:53 in New York City, and the plane hit at 8:47. If I'd gotten up on time and made it to my appointment early the way I'd planned, I'd have been in Jordan Singer's office when that plane hit. I would almost surely be a dead man. And then it hit me. I had a chance to escape my life. I had been contemplating some sort of escape for several years, but only in my imagination, only in my daydreams. I never really thought I'd have the opportunity to actually do it. So I stepped back from the crowd into a bit of a recess, kept my head down a bit, trying to think what I would have to do, and how I would do it, and what it would mean. I knew I could turn back in the next few hours if I changed my mind. But I decided to drop out of sight. As far as anyone knew, Frederick Robert Young was killed when that plane slammed into the North Tower. I was now Carl Benson Jacobs. Well, I pondered my future for just a moment. And then I realized I was going to have to act quickly if I was going to really pull this off. The first thing I did was turn off my cell phone. I knew that my friends and family and coworkers would be calling any second, desperate to find out whether I was okay. If I was going to be dead, my cell phone would have to be dead too. It was a long few seconds that I struggled with that. See, I wanted to call everyone and tell them that I was alive and share with them my relief. I wanted to tell them how my own incompetence and forgetting to reset my watch had saved me, leaving me down on the ground looking up at the horror of the plane crash instead of being up there crushed and incinerated in Jordan Singer's office. But I didn't call anyone. I took another step toward changing my life. Opened the cell phone, took out the SIM card, and took out the cell phone battery. I briefly considered returning to my hotel room to collect a few things. No, that wouldn't do. I had to leave everything there. Leaving all my belongings in the hotel room would go a long way toward convincing everyone that Fred Young was dead. Also, I didn't want anyone to see me who might recognize me as Fred Young. So my next step was to find a drugstore or a variety store. And fortunately, there was one just a couple of stores back. All the customers there had spilled out into the street and were looking up at the North Tower, but the clerks were still on duty, albeit in a state of semi-panicked confusion. What's going on? What was that big explosion? I sort of kept my head down and away from them and muttered, I don't know, I think a plane went into one of the Twin Towers. I went to the back of the store, I picked up a pair of scissors and some disposable razors, took them to the counter. I almost paid with my credit card, but stopped myself just in the nick of time and paid with cash. I couldn't use my credit card, or people would know that I hadn't been killed up there in the Twin Towers. It was a close call. It was the first of many. I found my way to the back of the store and went into the restroom, the employee restroom, into a stall, made sure the latch was secure. Using the scissors, I cut my longish hair and my beard, and I saved a few of the strands of hair, but I flushed the rest down the toilet along with the SIM card. Then I flushed the toilet a couple more times for good measure, and one more time to make sure the water in the toilet bowl was as clean as I could get it. Then using that water and one of the disposable razors, I shaved my head and my beard. It was a spotty job, to be sure. But after just a few minutes, I felt as if I was pretty much bald and beardless. See, I thought this would work, but then when I stepped out of the stall and looked in the mirror, I was horrified at what I saw. I hated my look, and to be honest, I didn't even recognize myself. I had read somewhere that by shaving your head and your beard, you could make it impossible for anyone to identify you. But I hadn't expected anything like this. I was certain that my family, friends, no one would be able to identify me or would be able to recognize me unless they heard me speak. I went over to the mirror and finished up the shaving job quickly, and then I took my wallet out. First I removed most of the cash and put it in my right front pocket, leaving about $40 in the wallet, along with my ID cards for Fred Young and Fred Young credit cards. Next, I took out the false ID that I had prepared. Mind you, I prepared it only to help make my fantasy seem a little more real than I ever expected it to be. Let me emphasize that I never, ever expected I would actually use the new persona. I carried that false ID hidden in my wallet only as a means of making the dream seem more real, as a lark, as a secret little fantasy that I had developed. I put the false ID in my right front pocket along with the cash. I looked at the pictures of my children. Timothy, 15, Liz, 13. Closed my wallet and put it in my left front pocket. Then I took off my necktie, cut out the label, took off my suit coat, cut out the tailor's name and the labels, stuffed the tie and coat into the bag they gave me when I bought the razors and scissors, shoved it into a wastebasket under a bunch of messy paper towels. And I took one last look in the mirror, took a deep breath. Here we go, I said, and I unbuttoned the top two buttons of my shirt. I kept my head down as I walked back out through the store, just in case they had a security camera they might check later. And then I hurried as fast as I could to the North Tower, dropping the labels from the clothing in trash bins along the way and dropping the cell phone battery. By that time, the second plane had hit the South Tower, and people were in a general state of panic just about everywhere. Hundreds of people were still streaming out of the North Tower, and by that time, the rush to evacuate the South Tower was pretty well underway too. People up above where the planes hit were leaning out of the windows, waving white material, begging to be rescued. Others made their way to the rooftop, hoping to be airlifted to safety by helicopters. Others had no way of escape. They couldn't bear the heat, but they couldn't get away from it either. Rather than be burned alive, they jumped to their death. There were hundreds of them. I'm still shaking. I'm still shaking, cry. Trying to think about it, especially that young couple that jumped holding hands. I'm sorry, I'll be okay. As people came out of the buildings, a few of them stopped briefly to gawk at the carnage among the debris, but most of them just scurried to safety as fast as they could. One thing you never saw on the news was that scavengers went to work as quickly as they could. More than just a few people swarmed to the site, started picking through the debris, the bits of luggage, the bits of clothing, the body parts, stealing all the jewelry and money and valuables they could find. No fooling. I joined in, not to steal, but to plant evidence. When no one was looking, I took the strands of hair and planted them under some smoldering bits of concrete, hoping that the heat would singe the hair so no one would be able to tell that it had been cut. Then I put my wallet under another bit of debris. I took my wedding ring off, planted it under another bit of debris. I hoped that my attempts to plant evidence wouldn't be too obvious then or later. I certainly didn't want anyone to see that I was planting evidence. I hoped that if they saw me, they would think I was scavenging along with the others. I didn't like the image of being a scavenger, but it provided a great cover for me. I knew that I could concoct a story later if I changed my mind. But planting my personal items among the debris meant that I was taking another significant step toward changing my life. Fred Young was now dead and gone. I had become Carl Jacobs. My next plan was to get out of New York City with my new identity. I had squirreled away a few $1,000s in a secret bank account back in Omaha, Nebraska. And had a bank card for it, had a false birth certificate, and a social security number in the name of Carl Jacobs. And I had my shoulder bag and laptop. And I had the scissors and the disposable razors I just bought. I felt for my wallet to see how much cash I still had with me. I slapped myself alongside the head. I had just planted my wallet among the debris outside the North Tower, and I'd already forgotten. I was going to have to concentrate and be careful if I was really going to pull off this identity change and this escape. Well, it turned out I had $240 cash. That and the bank card for the secret bank account. That was it. I was going to start a completely new life with very little money, no education credentials, no job, no work history, no friends, no family, no home, nothing. I felt a cold thud go down through me as those bare facts hit me. I gradually blended in and was swept along by the evacuees from the two buildings. My plan had been that I would get to the bus station or one of the train stations. But I was headed east. What did I know? I didn't know which direction to go or how far. I hadn't thought that far ahead. Besides, the smoke from the fires was blocking out the sun, and I couldn't tell which direction I was going anyway. And then the South Tower collapsed. I was 2 blocks away, and there was a rush of dust and ash coming up the street, and it was terrifying. I ducked into a doorway just to avoid the flying debris, whatever I could. But the air was so clogged with dust and ash, I could barely breathe. Paper ash, building ash, dead body ash. I covered my nose and mouth with my shirt just to filter out as much of the dust and ash as I could to keep myself from choking. People were running by as fast as they could, screaming and crying. It was a panicky horde of people. If I tried to join in with them, I'd have been trampled. One young man dove under an abandoned car just to avoid the mob of people that were hurtling down the street. Another young man stumbled as he came near where I was standing, and just as he was about to fall, I grabbed him by the wrist and pulled him into the doorway. If he'd fallen out there, he'd have been pulverized by that stampeding herd of people. He promptly vomited against the wall. It was a strange kind of vomit. Sort of bits of food mixed with a slurry of dust and ash that he'd swallowed when he was running. He wiped his mouth and turned and panted, "Thanks, man. You saved my life. I could have been killed out there." "Do you have any idea what's going on?" I asked him. He said, "Yeah, man. 2 big planes flew into the Twin Towers and killed thousands of people. The South Tower just collapsed, and now they're trying to get as many people out of the North Tower as they can before it goes too." I wept openly, and so did he. We actually hugged each other. And then the North Tower went. We heard it before we saw it. Let me tell you, you've never heard a rumbling roar like the rumbling roar that we heard when those two towers went. Well, the dust and ash storm came up the street at us again, but this time we were prepared. As soon as we heard the North Tower go, we took our shirts off, put them over our heads and faces, just to filter out all the dust and ash, but we were still gagging for air. We had to move the shirts around on our faces just to find spots that weren't clogged with dust and ash, but we survived. As the air began to clear, we sort of shuffled out through the dust and ash that was on the streets, into the street, and watched the young man edge his way out from under the car. He could barely breathe. Slowly he stood up, gasping for air, and gradually managed to regain his breath. I turned to my doorway partner and said, "Hi, I'm..." And I hesitated for just a second. I hoped he wouldn't catch on. "Carl Jacobs," I said. "Bob Zucker," he said. "Man, you saved my life. I owe you big time." Rather than respond, I went out to the young man who was in the street and come out from under the car and said, "Hi, I'm Carl Jacobs." I wanted to say it often just to get used to it. He turned and said, "Tom," shaking my hand, but he didn't offer a last name. Bob said, "Call me Zook," as he shook hands with Tom. It was clear the three of us had bonded in that minute. "Well, what do we do now?" said Zook. "Well, I'm really thirsty," said Tom. "How about we go for a drink somewhere?" That made sense. We'd been through a lot, and each of us had ingested and inhaled gobs of dust and ash. Washing it all down to the drink would feel really good. So we left for a bar that Tom said was about a block away, hoping it would still be open. But about halfway there, we spotted a little soft drink kiosk. And I suggested we make a quick stop there. And while we were paying for our Cokes, I said to the other two, "Look, I'm not from New York City, and I'm pretty concerned. I want to get out of here. I think I'll just skip the beers, and I'm going to head for the bus station or one of the train stations." "Don't bother, buddy," said the kiosk owner. "They've shut down all the planes and trains and buses for the entire area. You won't be able to get out. Everybody's just going home or to a hotel or to a friend's place." "You can stay with me," said Zook. "It's a 7-mile walk, but I have a couch you can sleep on until you can get away." Then he stopped and said, "After what you did for me, I'll sleep on the couch and you can have my bed." "Thanks, Zook. I appreciate it. I do. But I really am concerned, and I really want to get going. There must be some way to get off this island. I want to find my way home." Well, that was pretty vague. I had no idea where my new home was going to be. Also, I didn't want to stay with Zook because I was afraid of spending much time with anyone until I figured out what my new life was going to be like a little bit better than I knew already. So I just turned to him again and said, there must be some way to get off the island. Tom said, nah, not really. When the government wants things shut down, they shut them down. Well, not exactly, said the kiosk owner. I've heard there's a whole flotilla of boats ferrying people from Battery Park over to New Jersey. New Jersey, I asked excitedly. Where, I'd like to go there. Where's this Battery Park you were talking about? The guy said, hey, you're on Broadway now, buddy. Just stay on Broadway. Walk that way till you get to the park. You can't miss it. It's only 6 or 7 blocks. So I shouted my goodbyes to Tom and Zoot, waved, and walked quickly, very quickly, down Broadway toward Battery Park and my new life.
So on performance nights, what they'll do is open up those doors and people can go out and get a drink and look at the artwork, and then they kind of wander back in after 10 minutes.